Hey there, it's Wayfair here, where delivery and setup are as easy as a few taps on your phone. You're relaxing in an old hammock, scrolling Wayfair's app, when you spot it, a brand new patio set. Next thing you know, Wayfair delivers it right to your patio and sets it up. Oh, you need a new grill too? All right, Wayfair's got you covered. With Wayfair's Room of Choice delivery and fast expert setup on qualifying orders, life gets a little easier. Visit wayfair.com or the Wayfair app.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Tusk Top.
Welcome back to the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Christian Esparza, Alex Napoles, thank you for making us a part of your Saturday morning. It is June 6th. It is the beginning of summertime. Alex, I missed those summer months, man.
Feels like summer. Yesterday,
Yeah.
it got a little hot yesterday.
It did. I think it's supposed to be warm today, too.
Walked out of my car yesterday when I got home, and I was like, dang, it's kind of hot.
Dang, it's hot, yeah.
You know what, man? I fell for it again.
What's that?
They got me again. Every time that I think I'm out, they pull me back in. And it's freaking EA, man.
You buy the new FIFA?
No.
Or are you going to buy the new Madden?
I told myself I wasn't going to buy the new college football game.
Oh, college football.
Because it's it's the same game every year.
Uh-huh.
And then they dropped the teaser, and I was like, oh.
Dude, did you see that they lit the U in the trailer?
That's like the least of my.
You're not buying it to light the U?
That's down the list of the things that I wanted to see. It's the whole new they added NIL, they added a bunch of like other stuff to Dynasty, and they actually made improvements to Dynasty.
They're just now adding that?
Yeah. After 2 editions.
I played the first. This will be the third one.
Third edition.
I played the first one. It was fine. I got bored of it pretty quickly, and I was not interested in the second one.
And that's exactly why I was like, nah, I'm not gonna invest in it this year. It's the same game. But then they dropped the teaser and they dropped all the stuff, and then like some of the influencers are posting like their beta clips and like playing the game, the actual game, And I was like, oh man,
can you gamble in it?
They got me. No, you can't gamble in it.
You can't start like a DraftKings account?
I don't think you can. Maybe in 2 more editions. They'll be sponsored by DraftKings. Who knows?
Yeah, and we'll get to that story later. There's some new Brendan Sorsby news coming out. We will talk about that in a bit. But, of course, the big story right now, Game 2 last night, NBA Finals. The Knicks win it 105-104. Wemby had a chance to win the game. He misses the game-winning shot. Our producer, Parker, put together a little highlight package with that final shot. So let's go ahead and give it a listen.
Hassel inbound. Fox gets it. Bridges on him. 4 seconds. Fox to Wembanyama. Pulls up. Jumper. Won't go. Rebound taken by Vassell. It's over. It's over. The Knicks survive. This magic carpet ride continues. 13 straight victories, and they lead 2-0 here in these NBA Finals.
First off, great job, Parker. That was really funny. New York State of Mind.
That was amazing.
The Knicks win Game 2, man.
Did the Spurs, arena team, did they not learn their lesson in Game 1? Doing the cartoon troll song when they were introducing the Knicks lineup twice. You didn't learn your lesson the first time. You did it again, and this is what happens.
I missed that. That's funny.
You're 0-2 at home. You're down 0-2 against the Knicks.
And then the series goes back to New York. Yeah, and now you're asking the Spurs to win at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
What an awful sequence of events from Victor Wembanyama to end this game. I think that ultimately, if the Spurs lose this series, I think the end of Game 2 and the mistakes that Victor Wembanyama made, that's going to be talked about for a long time, especially if he never wins the ring,
Yeah.
First off, that crucial turnover off the Jalen Brunson missed shot, starting the fast break. Steph Castle assumes that Wembanyama's going to run the floor. Wembenyama tries to push the ball up to Steph Castle, literally right as he turns around, bounces off of his back, and Jalen Brunson is able to steal. So that was a big mistake. And then, of course, on the last shot, he got a fine look. But one thing that really bugged me, Alex, is I should have found this clip, but you remember a few weeks ago when he was talking about Shea and flopping, and he had some quote about ethical basketball.
I do remember that, yes.
Did you see him fall down after his shot that he missed?
Yes.
That would have been game-winning shot. Mitchell Robinson is defending. Robinson doesn't even touch him at all.
No.
And Wembenyama, all 7'5" of him, tumbles.
Yeah.
Trying to flop and get the free throws because he knew he missed the shot. And look, you got to do what you got to do, but it's also a bad look. Like,
it is.
When you're sitting up there taking the high road on your high horse, talking down on Shea and these other stars for flopping and free throw merchants and whatever, and then you turn around and do the same thing. Everybody does it. That's why you might as well just not say anything, because everybody does it.
And then for him to go in the post-game press conference and essentially say, we should be better. I should be better from recovering from the high of winning the conference finals. It just reminds me of the old Kobe Bryant clip of where they're asking him in a post-game press conference, you're up 2-0. Why aren't you smiling? Job's not done.
Yeah.
Didn't have that mentality. It didn't seem like the Spurs have that mentality based on what Wembenyama said after the game, right?
Yeah. Didn't
recover, right? They're still on ecstatic from winning the Western Conference Finals, and didn't get refocused back enough to say, hey, job not finished. We still have to play this New York Knicks team, who has now won 13 consecutive games.
They have not lost since before the NFL draft.
They're amazing. They're awesome. They're fun to watch.
Yeah.
Last night, I think Karl Anthony Towns did so much to change the perception that everybody has painted Karl Anthony Towns in because of the memes, because of the questioning the trade that initially sent him to the New York Knicks. And last night, I think he did phenomenal wonders to his career.
Yeah, game 1 and 2 were both awesome for Cat.
The work that he did on Wembenyama, specifically in the first half, defensively was incredible. You hold Victor Wembanyama at halftime to just 7 points. That's awesome. Karl Anthony Towns also then, gets in foul trouble. He's off the floor, and that's when the San Antonio Spurs start cutting into that lead and start making a little bit of a comeback.
Yeah. Wembanyama, 40 minutes last night. He played 40 minutes, which is crazy. That's just straight up unsustainable for him.
Yeah.
29 points, but really bad from the floor. 11 of 21 shooting, 2 of 6 from 3. That's after a game 1 when he was 6 of 21 from the floor, 2 of 9 from 3. But he did shoot 13 free throws in game 1, and then last night he shot 8. Offensively, Wemby's just not there this series. Now, it is crazy how much of a defensive force he still is, right? But offensively, he has just been way off. And I really like your point about riding the high of beating the Oklahoma City Thunder in the Western Conference Finals, because it felt like San Antonio crowned themselves right then and there, because they took down the defending champs. They took down the team that was supposed to be the next dynasty and, back-to-back MVP, and they defeated him.
Right.
And that was it. But it's like, hey, you've still got a whole other series left to play against a good Knicks team.
Yeah.
And I always thought it was weird that the Spurs were heavy favorites entering the finals. Like, why? I mean, I get that they beat the Thunder, and the Thunder are a very good team, but the Thunder were missing their second best player, and their third best player played like garbage. The Knicks team is relatively fully healthy. And as you mentioned, riding a hot streak. This is one of the best hot streaks in NBA playoff history as far as 13 straight wins. I don't know. I think people were crowning San Antonio way too early, including themselves.
And we certainly did as well.
I
thought it was going to be whoever came out of the West was going to win, but now here we are with the New York Knicks sitting at 2-0.
I'm so anti-Wembenyama. I'm anti-Spurs. I really do. I get so annoyed when it's always like, crowning the next big thing and being obsessed with how good he is. And I get that game 1 performance against the Thunder was something that you only see once every 5 years is a game like that. But it doesn't mean that the Spurs are going to win the finals because of that. And who knows, maybe they do turn around and win this series, but now you're down 0-2. You got to go back to New York City. You're going to be playing in one of the most notorious playoff environments in all of sports. Timothy Chalamet and Kylie Jenner are going to be right there on Celebrity Row next to Spike Lee and Ben Stiller. The Pope's going to be watching from across the pond.
Right.
It's just... it's too much to ask of San Antonio right now. This is a team that, again, they're kind of playing with house money because they're not supposed to be here. They were not supposed to get past Oklahoma City. So it's good for them to be here in Wembanyama's age 22 season. But at the same time, who knows if you're ever going to make it back. So quit celebrating the Western Conference Finals, lock in, and go win a game.
How much do you think the age played a factor into the Spurs last night? Because... I mean, obviously, it's still a young team. This is the first time most, if not all, of these guys are on the floor in these type of moments and in these type of situations. And then you had some really interesting clock management at the end from a head coach who is also on the younger side, if I'm not mistaken. This is his first. Is it his first year as a head coach or second?
I think
regardless, still relatively young head coach. And you get the rebound from Wemby on an opportunity from you get the ball back on an opportunity for the Knicks to take a 2-point lead, and then there's 12 seconds left. You have a timeout in your back pocket. You can take that timeout and essentially design the play that you want to play in order to give you a game-winning shot. But instead, it forces that turnover.
This is Mitch Johnson's first year. That's crazy.
First year. There you go.
Well, I think he was maybe the interim after Pop stepped down, and then they promoted him full-time officially.
That's right. Yes.
But no, that's a great point. And I think that's where the miscommunication came from with Steph Castle and Victor Wembanyama. Seems like Steph thought they were going to call a timeout. Wembanyama thought they were going to run the floor. Obviously, Mitch Johnson sits on the timeout, so he wanted them to run the floor. And that's an experience all around. Why would you not take a timeout with 12 seconds left as a head coach?
I think watching that play, and then immediately as the turnover happens, Brunson gets the ball, you commit the foul. It seems like, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, why don't you take that timeout there?
Yeah.
Again, there's 12 seconds left. It's a tie game at that point. You can go and you can run whatever play you want with 12 seconds on the other side. I understand, wanting to bleed out the clock and making sure the Knicks don't get a possession, but it just seemed like that was really interesting clock management from the Spurs down the stretch.
Yeah, we talk about the youth and inexperience, and, it is on the floor for the Spurs. Most of these players have never been in the playoffs before. De'Aaron Fox played 1 year in the playoffs. I think Champagnie on the 76ers played once or twice in the playoffs. But outside of that, it's essentially everybody's first rodeo. But it's deeper than that. Look at the coaches. Mike Brown's first head coaching job was 21 years ago with the Cleveland Cavaliers in 2005.
Yes.
Mitch Johnson, we just mentioned, this was his first full season as the Spurs head coach. Now, he did learn from an all-time great in Greg Popovich, but that's not to say that he's a perfect coach by any means. So, kind of talked about that with Ben Anderson yesterday a little bit. Like, after game 1 and you see what happens on the floor, what adjustments do these coaches make? And not only in between games, but late in games. And then, you get down to clock management and things like that. I'm sure it's frustrating for somebody, like Wembanyama to feel like he's the best player in the world. And it's one thing when he makes mistakes, but then, your head coach and your teammates make mistakes late in the stretch, and that's frustrating. But again, Wemby had his own mistakes last night. This loss is not on Mitch Johnson, wholly, right? It's not all on Steph Castle. Victor Wembanyama's definitely got his part to play in the loss. But then you just do got to turn and give credit to the Knicks.
Yeah.
Because they had a terrible fourth quarter. they went scoreless for, I want to say it was like a 6-minute run.
It was something in that regards, and that's where I do want to give credit to this young San Antonio Spurs team because they were down by 14, and twice they were down with some pretty big leads twice. I don't remember what the first one was, but they were down 14 down in the fourth quarter, and they were able to cut into that lead multiple times. They were able to get back within striking distance multiple times. Late in the fourth quarter, they even took the lead back, and then you look at somebody like Jalen Brunson, who I thought was phenomenal in the clutch, fantastic in the clutch in game one, and had some really big moments in the clutch. And then this one, trying to replicate those clutch moments, and he came short. There was a wide open 3 late in the game from Jalen Brunson that, in those situations, you want your superstar to be automatic. And typically, I think he is automatic, but he ends up missing the 3 and allows San Antonio to retake the lead.
He did tie it, though.
He did tie it, right,
with that mid-range. That was such a beautiful shot.
And that was fantastic. And again, I'm not taking away from that jumper, the fadeaway bucket, because it was a special bucket. But Jalen Brunson down in the clutch wasn't as clutch as he was in game one. And San Antonio should theoretically be taking advantage of that. San Antonio should theoretically be taking advantage of coming back from being down by 14 points late in the fourth quarter. And instead, you have the mistakes from Wemby that ultimately put you down 2-0.
Dylan Harper played 32 minutes off the bench.
He did.
That's crazy. He had 15 points. De'Aaron Fox had 20. Vassell had 14. Steph Castle had 14. So you're seeing some good performances from everybody on the Spurs outside of Wemby, right? It's not just Wembanyama carrying the team. Of course, he did lead them in scoring with 29 points, but I think the thing with the Knicks is Jalen Brunson is the clutch guy. But again, he had a bad game, and they're still able to win when he has a bad game. He shot 7 of 25 last night, 2 of 8 from 3. Those are terrible numbers.
Yeah.
But although he missed that 3 you're talking about, he tied the game up with 40 seconds left against Victor Wembanyama, mind you. That he took him on one-on-one and then shot a fadeaway over Wembanyama to tie the game. Then he had the free throws, and he, 1 or 2? I think he split them, but he still knocked one of them down to take the lead. And San Antonio did have a chance to win the game, but, even though Brunson's off, I think McCall Bridges, great game from him.
Yes.
20 points, 4 of 6 from 3, 8 of 13 shooting. He kind of took over when Jalen Brunson was really struggling. And then Karl Anthony Towns, again, mentioned him earlier, but he's completely changing the narrative that people had around him, because you think of Minnesota Cat, and even last year, this is a dude that everybody was like, hey, you're 7 feet tall. Why are you so soft? Right. Why don't you play tough at all? He was one of the softest big men in the league, but somehow, some way, that has flipped in these finals. He's so tough all of a sudden, and he's rising up to the occasion against Victor Wembanyama, which ironically is the exact opposite of what Chet Holmgren did in the Western Conference Finals.
I would agree.
Chet completely cowered when Victor Wembanyama tried to take him on one-on-one. Cat is rising to the occasion, man, and he is really, really surprising me.
Absolutely. Again, I think his defensive performance led to the Knicks being able to be as dominant as they were in that first half, and then early through the third quarter. But then, you get into the foul trouble. He has to be off the floor for probably a little bit more than Mike Brown wanted him to be, and then that's when the Spurs ultimately started hacking into that lead. Josh Hart also late in the game, having to sit out for a little bit because he also got himself into some foul trouble. And again, good on the San Antonio Spurs for taking advantage of that. But when Karl Anthony Towns was on the floor, I think that's when Victor Wembanyama struggled the most. And then give credit to Mitchell Robinson, who came in and I thought also did a really, really good job on Victor Wembanyama. Karl Anthony Towns is doing so much to change the perception on him, and you can probably say the same thing about Bridges, right? Everybody criticized that trade. Everybody talked about the hefty price that was paid to bring Bridges to the New York Knicks. Maybe didn't have necessarily a stand-up performance in game one, but I think in the second game, when you can't rely as much on Cat to be on the floor and to be your scorer, I thought Bridges did really great things down in the fourth and third quarter to help out his side, man.
It seems like every one of these Knicks starters is kind of getting their moment, which is really cool. Josh Hart was the MVP of game one. That was the Josh Hart game. And then game 2, it's Mikal Bridges.
Yeah.
And, of course, Jalen Brunson doing his thing in both games. And, again, Cat doing his thing. Cat was plus 11 last night, I believe. He led all New York Knicks players in plus minus. Did you know they're the 3rd team ever to win the first 2 games on the road?
Yeah. They harped on that. They harped on that a lot last night.
It is funny.
Yeah.
We get it. But it is cool at the same time.
It is cool.
Joining the 93 Bulls and 95 Rockets, by the way.
It is cool. And then, of course, you have the contrast where it was the Suns and, oh boy, who else? That came back from 2-0 in the finals.
From 2-0.
Yeah. That was also
The Cavs.
I can't remember. That was also a stat that they harped last night on that broadcast.
It was a really fun, entertaining game. It's a 1-point game in the NBA Finals. You've got,
But what more could you ask for? I think you've had
Right.
I think you've had 2 really, really great games. I know that it was a little bit more of an inflated lead for the Knicks in game 1, but it still lived up to the billing. And again, I think it has to go back to Jalen Brunson and the moments that he showed in the clutch in game 1. In this one, it came down to the wire. Ultimately, I think it's unfortunate that, it was ultimately decided by an unfortunate turnover in an unfortunate situation where Wemby and Steph Cancel aren't on the same page, but it's still really great basketball, and it was still a really fun game. And I think so far, between 2 games, between the Spurs and the Knicks, man, this finals has lived up to the billing. It's been fantastic to watch.
I don't mind that it was decided on a stupid turnover. Like, they're vulnerable.
Yeah, but
they're
how much
vulnerable.
better?
That's basketball.
Yeah, but how much better would it have been if it was decided by either that fadeaway jumper from Jalen Brunson,
Yeah, that would have been cool.
or Wembenyama scores
The game-winning shot.
the game-winning
Yeah.
shot, as he's also trying to show up in clutch moments. But that would have been better than a turnover that leads to a.
Well, I think that
Leads to the foul.
the turnover encapsulates the Spurs are too young for this right now narrative. I think that just sums it up perfectly. Like you point to that play because you mentioned who made the mistake, Wembenyama, Steph Castle, or the coach. All of them are inexperienced. Right. All of them are probably too young for this rodeo here. It's not their time yet. You'd like to say, Wembenyama, your time's going to come in the next few years. But who knows if he ever makes it back to the finals again. We'll see. But great stuff so far. I mean, games 1 and 2 have been electric, and that's in freaking San Antonio, one of the most boring cities ever.
Yeah.
I was talking with Ben yesterday, like how many other cities in Texas would you rather go to? San Antonio is like at least 4th or 5th, right?
Yeah. I'd rather go to Dallas, obviously.
Yeah.
I'd rather go to Austin,
Houston.
And yeah, I'd probably put San Antonio 4.
Maybe.
Yeah, I'd probably go 4.
But anyways, back to New York, and it's gonna be crazy.
It is. It's gonna be wild. Massive credit to the New York Knicks fans who showed up, because there was a lot there in San Antonio last night for game 2.
Yeah.
There was a lot in San Antonio for game 1. And it was loud, man. On the broadcast, it was there were audible loud cheers for "Let's Go Knicks" and New York, and it's awesome that despite it being a road game, that there was that much contingency of the New York Knicks there supporting their guys. They're ready, man. They're loving it.
Monday, game 3.
$9,000 to get in.
Oh, that's crazy.
I know. Did you see the tickets for game 4?
No.
They have also taken a big rise since last night's win.
Let me guess. Do you have the number ready?
Oh, so last night when I checked it, I'm going to check real quick to see if it's gone up more.
Okay. While you pull it up, I'm going to take my guess. So game 3, you're saying $9,000 is the get-in price. Game 4, obviously, going to be higher because it could be the closeout game. They could sweep San Antonio. I'm going to say $12,000.
Last night when I checked, it was up to 14.
Oh my gosh! For a single ticket?
It was up to $14,000, the cheapest to get into Game 4. Now it looks like it's up to 15. Nope.
Wow.
16. It's up to 16.
That's
Help
crazy.
me, I'm poor.
Yes, exactly. I don't know how the New York Knicks fans are getting into Madison Square Garden for Games 3 and Games 4, but you know, if you're in that environment and if you're in that stadium, man, get kudos to you because you're going to be in for a treat.
What else could you buy for $14,000? That would be more worth it, though. Would you pay $14,000 to watch your favorite team win the finals, win a championship?
I think even that might be a little too rich for my blood.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'd think about it at least.
I mean, sure, I'd contemplate it. You have to contemplate it. Your team's about to win an NBA championship, you know? But that might be a little too rich for my blood.
If I pay $14,000, they better let me
They better
on the
win.
stage.
They better win on game 4. They better close it down.
They better win.
Because if I'm dropping $14,000 and they don't clinch in game 4, and if they don't hold up the trophy at Madison Square Garden, I'm going to be a little upset.
Oh, I was going to say they better let me on the podium and let me hold the trophy for a second. Little meet and greet.
Oh, jeez.
All right, let's take a break.
The real question is, if the New York Knicks win the NBA championship, which Batman are you going to call to save New York?
Which Batman?
Which Batman are you going to call to save New York, man? Because it's going to get crazy.
I guess.
Pattinson?
Battinson.
I'm going Bale. Give me Christian Bale all day, every day.
Okay, let's take a break. Coming up next on the other side, let's do another rumor mill segment. We had some fun with that next week, and we've got some more rumors coming out of the NBA draft and even the NFL world as well. So stick with us. It's the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome back to the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Christian Esparza, Alex Napoles. It is time for the rumor mill. This segment, we started last week. We had some fun with it, Alex. We're just going to run through a couple of rumors. Nothing's official, right?
It's all rumors.
Some rumblings, things that could come true. But if they don't get mad at us.
Rumor has it the rumor mill is here to stay.
Yeah,
there you
nice.
Go. There you go.
All right, first up, rumor has it. Dylan Larkin, the captain center out of Detroit, has requested a trade. Now, that part is official. Rumor has it the Utah Mammoth might be interested.
And they should be. This is a guy who had 34 goals, 33 assists for the Red Wings last season, in his 5th straight year of hitting that 30-goal mark. And he was a big part of Team USA, who ended up taking gold in the 2026 Olympics. Let's not forget that. I just think that if you go and try to make a trade for a Dylan Larkin, it's going to come with a pretty hefty price tag, I believe. And so does our Utah Mammoth insider, Cole Bagley, who ended up putting up kind of this mock trade proposal up on his Twitter feed.
He got buried for it.
And it, like I said, it's going to be a hefty price. His mock shows Barrett Hayton, Sean Dursey, Caleb Denoye, the first round 2026 pick, a 2028 second round conditional pick in exchange for Dylan Larkin. That seems like a hefty price tag.
We'll have to see. The leverage in this scenario is interesting because on one hand, Dylan Larkin is requesting a trade out. So that loses a lot of leverage for Detroit.
That is true.
But at the same time, he is a very talented player. As you mentioned, he's been right around that 30-goal mark for the last few years. 5 seasons in a row where he's hitting at least 30 goals a season. And in that same time span, he's also averaging around 70 points a season. His high was 79 points back in 2022. But he's been right around that 60 to 70 point mark every single year the past 5 seasons. So he's a great player. And that means there's going to be a bidding war for whoever is interested in Dylan Larkin. So I guess we'll see if GMBA wants to push some chips in. If they felt like they were close to beating Vegas in the playoffs this year, and now Vegas is in the Stanley Cup Finals, if they feel like they are a Dylan Larkin away from maybe being in that same tier of teams, or if Bill Armstrong would rather just keep riding his youth. I am interested to see, though, because they have so many young prospects that people are so high on. There's no way they could all see the ice. You're going to have to do something with some of them, right, as far as trading for veterans, whether that's now or a couple years down the road. I don't know, maybe you do capitalize on the value now because a guy like Denoye has not played in the NHL, so he's still got – basically his value right now is extremely high.
Right.
And it might fall after his first year in the NHL, or it might rise, who knows. But you might want to capitalize on that from this perspective.
Something that I found really, really interesting when all the information came out about Larkin, 2 days ago, yesterday, was the fact that he's only played in 5 playoff games in his 11 years in the
Well, that's because
in the
Detroit
NHL.
sucks.
Yeah, Detroit, I mean, obviously
And that's
not
why he
that
wants
great.
out.
And so I think it would be safe to say that Dylan Larkin is obviously going to want to move wherever he ends up going. He's going to want to end up in a contender, in a playoff contending team. And so I feel like if the Utah Mammoth feel like they're in that position where they can bring in a Dylan Larkin to kind of put him over the top, that's obviously something that you have to consider no matter what. And I think it's part of the whole due diligence and due process to at least put a feeler out there and find out what the asking price is going to be for a Dylan Larkin.
Yeah. And that would be really interesting to see them take a big swing like that because, again, this team is so young right now. But if you trade for somebody like Larkin, you kind of adjust your whole timeline.
Yes,
So
and that's
we'll see.
and that's something in the past that people like Cole Bagley has mentioned about the timeline and how they don't want to mortgage their entire future
Right.
for a win now move. They want to
Right.
make sure that they're set where they can be competitive for the next 6, 7, etc. years or however long they can extend that window. So again, I think when I look at the Dylan Larkin situation, I look at that. The same question pops up in my head, right? Do you want to mortgage your future for a move that essentially seems like, in a way, it is let's go and win now?
All right. Next.
Aaron Donald keeps teasing a comeback.
This is so funny.
Obviously, the big news this week in the NFL was the blockbuster trade that happened between the Cleveland Browns and the Los Angeles Rams, sending Myles Garrett to L.A. And ever since then, the Rams fans aren't satisfied because Aaron Donald keeps teasing and keeps posting him workout clips and keeps embedding songs essentially with the lyrics, "I'm not done, I'm coming back, I'm ready." So it's a little he's getting people excited and he's getting people thinking about what an Aaron Donald and Myles Garrett defensive lineup would look like.
That would be crazy. I mean, Aaron Donald is the most dominant football player I have ever seen in my lifetime, right? Missed out on some of the greats like Barry Sanders. I mean, Tom Brady has the rings, right? But I'm talking about individual game-wrecking players that every single play you have to double, triple team. You have to account for. You can't run towards their side at all. Aaron Donald was amazing. Myles Garrett is right up there, right behind him. And who knows if Aaron Donald still has the juice. He keeps saying the fire, right? And that's why he retired, is because he kind of just lost the drive. I mean, he won his Super Bowl, and then he was like, yeah, I've won Super Bowl. I've won Defensive Player of the Year. Like, I've done everything I wanted to accomplish. I don't have the fire in me, the drive to keep, because it's hard to play at that level in the NFL, right? So that's why he retired. Maybe Myles Garrett coming to L.A. is enough to bring him back.
Of course, Pat McAfee gets involved because Pat McAfee does get involved for some reason. But he texts Aaron Donald, and Aaron Donald essentially said, "We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see." Obviously, Sean McVay has been asked multiple times already too if Aaron Donald would want to come back, and he said there's conversations between him and Aaron Donald all the time, and essentially says at the age of 35 he can still come in and play at a pretty good rate. So we'll see.
I'm sure. Yeah,
We'll see.
I'm sure he could still be decent.
Who knows, man? Maybe in September, down the line as you get closer to the playoffs, he signs a contract, pulls a little bit of an Eric Weddle, right? Comes out of retirement, goes on, wins the ring, and then retires.
Retires.
Yeah. So we'll see, man. That is the the latest on Aaron Donald. What's next?
Rumor has it the top two prospects, AJ DeBonsa and Darren Peterson, are only going to work out for the top two teams. Now, this one specifically, I do want to mention this is just a rumor. It's pretty hard to confirm something like this. But, you've seen from a lot of draft insiders and draft experts that this is what they have heard. This is what they have been told. So AJ DeBonsa and Darren Peterson expected to go number one, number two, maybe in that order. Sounds like they are only working out for those two teams.
It Rightfully so, because I think the consensus is, I think while there's not a consensus on who the Wizards are going to be taking at number one, I think there is a consensus that the number one and the number two is going to be Darren Peterson and AJ DeBonsa.
Yeah.
Whatever order that may be in. So it makes sense.
I do want to clarify that the Jazz are working out anybody and everybody.
As they should.
They brought in Mikal Brown, Darius Acuff, and everybody's like, you're not going to draft Darius Acuff second overall, but they're just having fun.
Even if it is like a little ploy to like kind of hide your hand, right, and make sure nobody gets tipped to whether direction
That's the main thing.
You might be leaning. I think that you absolutely do it, and then obviously just keep those cards close to the chest to make sure that nobody's the wiser to what the Jazz are going to do.
So that's the main thing. The other thing, too, that people sometimes bring up is you never know when these guys are, if they're free agents or if you have an opportunity to trade for them down the line. You want to have somewhat of a relationship with them.
Exactly.
And have them be somewhat familiar with your team and your organization. I had a really good experience working out with Utah in my pre-draft process. Yeah, sure, I'd be okay with going there, that sort of thing.
It's about perception, right? And we've talked about it a couple weeks ago, right? The perception on Utah and the bad rap that it gets. But, you have players like Kevin Love and Josef Nurkic who are veterans in this league, guys in this league who have been on multiple podcasts throughout the course of the season on the Utah high horse and saying how awesome it is here. And so that's just another opportunity to show some of these guys and to spread the word, right? I guess even if it isn't these guys specifically that you're going to be signing in the future, potentially, right? They can still at least spread the word of, hey, we had good workouts in Utah and they treated us really well.
But one more little note on this is it doesn't matter who works out for a team and who doesn't. Because remember last year, Ace Bailey, Notorious, did not work out for anybody but the Wizards, right?
Right.
But the Jazz called his bluff. The Jazz still selected him. So if somehow, Darren Peterson maybe falls to 3, let's say DeBonsa goes 1 and the Jazz take Cam Boozer at 2. I'm sure Memphis would be just fine drafting Darren Peterson even if he didn't work out for them because that doesn't ultimately matter. The Jazz have drafted several players that didn't work out for them, right?
Right.
Sometimes it is a smokescreen. I mean, it's lying season.
It is. And, you got to do anything and everything you can to make sure that those cards stay close to the chest and make sure nobody's tipped ahead of time to what you might potentially do. And I think that's something you guys had Austin Ainge on Jake and Ben earlier this week, and then something that that he mentioned was like, hey, we don't know what Washington's going to do.
Yeah.
And that's again why you have to kind of go in through here and make sure that you can work out everybody because you really don't know what's going to happen.
I can't wait.
You really don't know what's going to happen. And it could be Boozer at 2, it could be AJ at 2, it could be Darren Peterson at 2. So you might as well work everybody.
June 23rd, man.
Can't get here soon enough. It feels like we're everybody in Salt Lake and everybody in Utah is just kind of waiting to see what happens, getting all the information they can, man. Every day I open up Twitter and every day I open up social media. The first thing that pops up on my feed, it's either AJ DeBonsa or Darren Peterson, and Jazz fans, working out the possibility of either one of those two guys ending up a Utah Jazz, man.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
We'll see. Let's take a break, Alex. Coming up next on the other side, we will hit technical fouls. We've got an NFL team potentially on the move. We will talk about that and more. Stick with us. It's the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome back to the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Christian Esparza, Alex Napoles. It is time for technical fouls, where we talk about some of the lighthearted things going on in sports. And, we assess technical fouls to the people that deserve them and call them out for being stupid or whatever.
Yeah. This is, we call out the silly things in the world of sports.
Okay, I will start things off with a very sad story coming out of Chicago. The Bears are moving closer to a move for a new stadium in, get this, Indiana.
The Indiana Bears.
I think I'd prefer the Hammond Bears.
Instead of Indiana?
Instead of Indiana, yeah.
Because
they're moving to the city of Hammond. It is 16 miles south of Chicago, and it's like right on the border of Indiana, right? And so It's not that far of it's not, it wouldn't be like the furthest of
It's 35
of moves,
minutes away.
but
yeah.
But still, everybody's freaking out about the Chicago Bears leaving Chicago.
Right. Well, first off, I think it's a ridiculous idea for an NFL team, if they would still have Chicago on their helmets and be playing in a completely different state. And I get that it's right across the border. I get that it's a 35-minute drive.
Yeah, but the Jets and the Giants do it.
And I totally get that, and I think they need to be punished.
They need to be the New York Jets, or the New Jersey Jets.
Yes, I do. I hate that. That's
you know
stupid.
what though? New Jersey Jets rolls off the tongue a little bit better than New York Jets.
Yeah.
You have the alliteration a little bit there with the J's.
The New Jersey Nets were a thing.
That's true.
Because they understood the assignment for a second.
That is true.
And then they went back to Brooklyn. No, I look, and this isn't official yet. They voted to advance their stadium development. Again, this is all kind of just to put pressure on Chicago, and there still is a chance that everything gets resolved and Chicago will build them a new stadium, is essentially what this is about. But this has been in the works for a couple of years now, and the closer it gets from, or the farther away it gets from anything being done to save it in Chicago, the farther this advances, and there is a real possibility that they do move to a new city. And I get that it's right outside of Chicago and it's barely across the state line, but I do think it's pretty stupid to be playing for a different state and still representing Chicago, especially if they're trying to get out of Chicago, Do
we start calling them the Missouri Chiefs?
They're going to be in Kansas City one way or the other. It's just which Kansas City are they going to be part of? The Kansas or the Missouri side, and it's looking like the Kansas side, but still KC. Still,
that's another one of those teams, right? That's like, obviously Kansas City is like right on the border, right?
Yeah.
And so you have the Missouri side, you have the Kansas side, and then, but I always associate them with Kansas because it's Kansas City,
right? But they don't.
But they're in Missouri. Yeah.
So it's, I don't know, some of these
Missouri
things
Chiefs
are really, really weird. Yeah, imagine if, I don't know, if the Minnesota Vikings played in North Dakota.
Oh, you'd have to call them the North Dakota Vikings.
Right.
You can't
because that's where the stadium is.
Keep Minnesota. I don't know, it's weird. The geographical things of this whole situation with the Hammond Bears or the Indiana Bears, and then you have the plenty of teams who are already kind of in a situation like that. And so
yeah,
we'll see. We'll see if they find their way to stay at Chicago. I understand why they want to move out, right? Soldier Field is significantly smaller than most other NFL stadiums.
And it's old.
It's older than most other NFL stadiums. So we'll see, man. Hopefully they can find the way to stay in Chicago.
This would give Indiana 2 NFL teams.
It would.
Which is crazy.
It would. I wonder how the Colts feel about all this.
Give us one.
Yeah, I wonder how the Colts feel about all this.
Maybe. I don't know how far is Indianapolis to Hammond.
Stepping up in their territory, man.
It's a 2.5-hour drive.
That's a lot closer than I thought it was going to be, though.
That's actually, that's relatively...
Yeah.
That is relatively close.
It's a lot closer than I thought it was going to be.
But honestly, if Hammond is that close to Chicago, I'd imagine those people would just be going to Bears games anyways, right? If you're close enough, you're not going to get more people going to Chicago Bears games because they moved a half hour south.
I would agree.
I don't know. Maybe it doesn't affect them at all. Some of these other, Pennsylvania has 2 NFL teams. Ohio has 2 NFL teams, so...
I forgot.
Some of these weird states.
Yeah. I'm
Why do you get 2?
I'm telling you, man, there's some weird geography things going on in the NFL, man.
Yeah.
And this is just going to be another thing added onto it. What about ESPN giving Tony Parker the AI treatment? That
was crazy, actually. And I saw the picture. I was like, is this AI? And then I saw the original one. So explain it for those who may have missed.
During the finals, there was a picture during the broadcast that was posted up of Tony Parker, and it was very clearly AI edited. It wasn't even the original picture, which is weird because like they have the original picture. Like you could have just used the original picture. I don't understand why you have to AI it to put it onto your broadcast. That makes no sense to me whatsoever.
So from what I understand, the original picture is him sitting on the court after winning the finals,
with Larry O'Brien.
Right?
Yeah.
And the AI version is just him with the bigger smile. Is that all it is?
I think so.
So they made it. They used AI to make him smile more.
Yes.
Which is weird. Who sees that picture? They're like, "Oh, boss, this would be a great photo to run for our Spurs package." And then somebody says, "You know what? He's not smiling very big. What can we do to make those teeth shine?"
And it's very clearly like, boosted up to like really great HD quality because during that time the cameras weren't obviously as great. So it's
got a little bit of a uncanny valley feel to it.
It kind of does, man. It looks weird because it also doesn't really look like Tony Parker. Like it's Tony Parker, but it doesn't also look like Tony Parker. It's weird.
Got to be careful with this AI stuff.
I do think that it's funny though because when people obviously saw this, it went viral. Everybody's talking about the AI edited photo of Tony Parker. Somebody posted up a picture of 2015 Steph Curry, and kind of edited it into like the ESPN broadcast, or maybe it was taken directly from the ESPN broadcast. I can't remember, but there is a picture of 2015 Steph Curry who looks very different. Everybody was talking about how it was AI edited, similar to the Tony Parker one, but it's actually just how Steph Curry looked like in 2015, which is very different.
Does he look different now?
Very different than what Steph looks like today.
It is weird.
Yeah.
Baby-faced assassin. I guess that's how he. Earned that nickname.
Yeah. So people were also poking fun of Steph Curry with this a little bit.
Imagine that. That's gonna be the new diss for like middle school kids. Like instead of calling somebody ugly, it's just gonna be like, "You look like your AI."
Well, do you remember? Everybody's in high school is like posting up pictures with like the filters and like
the dog face,
right? And like everybody, like when a picture had filters, like maybe that's the next step in all this. Instead of filters, people are AI generating themselves to look better and to post on Instagram. Who knows?
Crazy.
Yeah.
But now you're seeing
that's the world we live in.
How much money does ESPN have, and they're wasting it on this crap? You know?
Right.
Anyway. We're going to take a break. Coming up next, Austin Ainge was on the station earlier this week. He gave some great insight into the NBA draft, a little bit of their process and what's going on behind the scenes. He talked with Ben and DJ. So we're going to play some cuts and kind of get into some of that information that Austin Ainge gave out, president of basketball operations for the Utah Jazz. So stick with us. It's the Saturday Show, 97.5 DKSL Sports Zone.
Hey there, it's Wayfair here, where delivery and setup are as easy as a few taps on your phone. You're relaxing in an old hammock, scrolling Wayfair's app, when you spot it, a brand new patio set. Next thing you know, Wayfair delivers it right to your patio and sets it up. Oh, you need a new grill too? All right, Wayfair's got you covered. With Wayfair's room of choice delivery and fast expert setup on qualifying orders, life gets a little easier. Visit wayfair.com or the Wayfair app.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
It's the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Christian Esparza, Alex Napoles, thank you for making us a part of your Saturday morning. Alex, it's June 6th. Special day today.
What makes today so special?
It's Free Fishing Day.
Free Fishing Day?
Yeah, you don't need a license. So get out there. Take your kids out there and go fishing, man.
You going to go fishing later?
Probably not.
Oh.
It's hard to get out fishing with the newborn.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
But maybe I can sneak away.
You can take the newborn on his first fishing trip.
That's what I've been saying. That's what I've been trying to say.
Did the idea get struck down?
Yeah, pretty quickly.
Okay,
pretty quickly.
That's unfortunate, man.
We'll see. Anyways, I hope everybody out there is having a good weekend so far. Austin Ainge, Utah Jazz president of basketball operations, he was on the station earlier this week. Sounds like he might be doing some weekly appearances on all the shows.
Hey, there you go.
Kind of rotating through. But Austin Ainge joined Ben on Thursday, and DJ sat in for it as well. And some really great insight. It's really cool to have this transparency from the front office right before the draft. 2.5 weeks away, and getting kind of the curtains pulled back a little bit and seeing some of the I guess, what goes on behind the scenes, what these front offices are thinking about when it comes to such a big decision.
Yeah, and it is a massive decision, and so it's great to have, the people who are in charge of making these type of decisions, the people who are in charge of evaluating all this talent, evaluating all these prospects, to give them some type of to allow them to have that platform to give some insight into what's going on, and what's the thought processes, what's the thinking. And some really great questions asked by Ben and DJ to share some really great insight into where the Jazz stand now on all things, 2.5 weeks away from the draft?
So let's get into some of these answers. We'll play clips and then kind of break it down. The first one I want to get to, I am so glad that Ben led off with this question, and I cut the question off, but it's a conversation we had a couple weeks ago on the Saturday show. It was right after that Game 1 game between the Spurs and Thunder, where Wembanyama went absolutely insane. All the Jazz fans were kind of freaking out, melting down. How are we going to deal with this? What can the Jazz do to build their roster to stop Victor Wembanyama? And we came in and we were like, you know what? The team on the come up like the Jazz that is still, working towards making the playoffs, they're not worried about stopping Victor Wembanyama. Right. They're worried about making the best basketball team they can. And that's essentially what we talked about, right? And Ben asked Austin Ainge the same thing. Like, when you get such a good draft pick, how much of it, do you worry about stopping the best team or best player? And this is what Austin Ainge had to say about it.
I mean, mostly ignore, but you got to be cognizant of the competition. But we view the second pick as a 9 or 10 year investment, or a 9 or 10 year player. So it's about becoming the best team we can be over, in that period. So it's, that the best teams and the best players will shift dramatically in that time.
I love it.
And that's exactly what, that's exactly how you have to look at it. That's exactly how you have to approach it, right? You don't necessarily draft somebody you don't necessarily draft somebody to stop Victor Wembanyama, but you also have to be, you also have to have it in the back of your mind that this guy is in the Western Conference. You are going to see this guy multiple times. If you're going to want to make it to an NBA Finals, you are going to have to take on Victor Wembanyama. But that doesn't necessarily mean you have to draft to stop the best player or the best teams. You draft what you believe is going to be the best player, as Austin Ainge just mentioned, for the next long-term investment, for somebody who can really get you over the top, and then you already have pieces in place that can help you with Victor Wembanyama. You mentioned a little bit earlier, Christian, about Karl Anthony Towns and Victor Wembanyama, and what we're learning from this NBA Finals about how you can contain Victor Wembanyama. And I think that you look at a player like Jaren Jackson Jr., and what's to say that Jaren Jackson Jr. can't be that guy to help you contain Victor Wembanyama? We've seen it in the past, right, when he was with Memphis. Now you're going to have Markkanen, now you're going to have Walker Kessler, now you're going to have Jaren Jackson, who I think can work as a tandem to help be Victor Wembanyama containers. So in that sense, right, you don't have to draft somebody specifically to stop the Spurs and specifically somebody to stop Victor, right, when you already have pieces in place who can get you there.
Yeah, and I think the main thing is that you are worried about building the best team that you can.
Regardless of the competition.
Regardless of the competition. You don't care if you're going to be playing, Wembanyama in the Spurs, or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in the Thunder, or Anthony Edwards in the Timberwolves. All three of those teams have different things that make them special. So if you key in on something, we're building our team to.
If you key in on just the San Antonio Spurs, you're going to be vulnerable. Yeah, you're already setting yourself up in a bad spot.
So that's not how NBA front offices think about it, at least in this stage. Maybe if, for example, let's say, I'll use the Timberwolves again because they were eliminated by the Spurs in the second round of the playoffs. Maybe in that scenario, they're like, man, Victor really cooked us in that series. What can we do to make our team better against Victor Wembanyama? Maybe in that sense, that's where you get to, we got to get ourselves a Wemby stopper. But where the Jazz are right now, and they haven't made the playoffs, and they're pushing towards their first playoff push, they're worried about building the best team that they can. And you know what? To be honest with you, I really like the blueprint that they're setting out, because they are going to have a completely unique team that there's not a comp for the Utah Jazz in the NBA right now. I can't think of a comp off the top of my head that has had 3 7-footers in the starting lineup, plus Ace Bailey at the 2, who's 6'10", plus Keontae George, and then, whether you bring in AJ, who's 6'9", or Darren Peterson, who is 6'6", but he's really long for his size as well. So that's something that I am curious to see if, because the NBA and professional leagues are such a trend-heavy league, I wonder if the Jazz do that and start winning a lot of games. I wonder if a lot of other NBA teams are going to be like, you know what, let's just get as big and as long as we absolutely can because it's working for the Utah Jazz.
Yeah.
So as far as stopping Victor Wembanyama, I think you worry about stopping the rest of the Spurs. I mean, you'll see when you get there, I guess. We'll see what the Jazz's plan is when they match up with Wembanyama in the playoffs. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun basketball, but you make a great point. I mean, Tripp is pretty comparable to Karl Anthony Towns and Lauri Markkanen again. And then you've got Walker Kessler as the rim protector. So if you think Jaren Jackson and Lowry can take care of Wemby around the perimeter and then funnel, anything inside to Walker Kessler, that's probably a pretty good plan. But it's not like the Jazz are saying, okay, who's the biggest prospect available at number 2? Let's draft him. And that would be Caleb Wilson, right? Or Cam. They're not doing that. They're focused on getting the best player available to them.
Best player available, and like Austin had mentioned, that you can invest in for the next 9 to 10 years. One of the things that came to my mind as you were having that, as we're having this conversation, is the fact that everybody talked about for the last, 3 years, about the blueprint, right? And can the Jazz follow the blueprint of Oklahoma City? Can they follow the blueprint of these rebuilding teams, like the Pistons, etc.? And I think the Jazz have kind of set themselves up in a position to kind of, build their own blueprint.
Right. Screw the blueprint. Make your own.
Right. And, for all the success that the Thunder have, and it's been awesome to watch the Pistons come back, and they ended up as the number one team in the East this year. But you don't have to follow those blueprints, and you don't have to mold yourself how other teams have molded themselves. I know that the Thunder have the championship, and that's a really great achievement for them. But the Jazz right now, with the way that with the players that they have on this roster and the way that things are set up, obviously there's still things to change with free agency, and obviously you're going to bring in a number 2 overall pick. But it seems like they're heading in a direction right now where they're saying, hey, look, we're going to make our own blueprint, and we can be competitive against all these teams in the West. Not just the Spurs, not just Victor Wembanyama, but we can compete with anybody.
Exactly.
And that's what, I like the direction that they're taking.
Yeah, be as good as you can be. Make those other teams want to stop you.
Right.
I can't wait. This is going to be so much fun a year from now. Another clip that I think is really important to get to, some really great insight here. The initial question Ben is asking about how much the top of their draft board changes, in the weeks or months leading up to the draft. These guys have their draft boards built far in advance, but it changes as you learn some more information. Darren Peterson has the cramps in college. Does that change anything? So Ben asked how much the top of the board changes, and then at the end of this clip, it's a pretty long clip, Austin drops a little nugget that we'll talk about after.
It does. I would say less than further down in the draft. But it does happen. We're trying to force ourselves to keep an open mind. Like, don't get locked in until we have all the information. Make sure we're processing everything correctly. We're almost fighting a consensus or a predetermination. We're trying to make sure we go through it as thoroughly as possible before we lock in. So I would say there's always a blink reaction when we get the pick. All right, we're going to do this, and then but we're trying not to do that on purpose. I do think that we are fighting groupthink. We're fighting media narratives. We're fighting that, and then that's part of the reason we use analytics, because those are dispassionate and not human, and so we use those to check ourselves a lot and keep ourselves grounded. So we'll use all the tools we have, and you guys can picture a room full of guys and girls that spend all their life and all their hours watching these games and trying to figure out these players. Like, we don't have a consensus in our rooms, right? Like, there's arguments. My dad and I fight every day about stuff, about players. I mean, Coach Hardy and I spend a lot of time talking through it and picturing how it would work with this guy and that guy. And there's a lot of opinions and I work with a lot of smart people and we're all just trying to share and grow and learn and somehow come together at the end.
So first off, keeping an open mind and fighting narratives, I think, is important. And it's funny, because you hear about the outside noise. Everybody's saying that the number one pick is going to be AJ DeBonsa or Darren Peterson. But you think of from the front office point of view, you almost have to put blinders on and just start from scratch and build your own board and do your own homework. And it probably does turn out that the top 2 or 3 or 4 players on your board end up matching somewhat close to what that media narrative is, because those are really good players and they are rated that highly for a reason. But maybe sometimes, you get a player that you're a lot higher on than everybody else. And it's hard to be willing to stand out and have, let's say they reach on somebody. I don't think they're going to reach on anybody at 2. I think it's definitely going to be one of these top 3 names. But it's like, picking at number 5, and I know they took Ace Bailey last year and he was a good talent, but let's say they reached on somebody and then everybody's just burning Salt Lake City down because that guy was rated number 21 and they reached and took him at 5. Like, that's a hard thing to do, is have your own opinion and go against some of these narratives. But obviously the big nugget there is not having a consensus at number 2 yet. Right.
And I think at this point it's okay to not be in a spot where you have a consensus, because he mentioned it at the very end of that clip too. There are a lot of smart people in that room. There are a lot of people who have been around the game of basketball for a really long time, people who have been in situations and scenarios where they've built championship-winning teams, a la Danny Ainge, a la Austin Ainge, people who have been playing this game of basketball for a very long time, who are also in that room making some decisions. All the scouts, Boozer, and everybody, everybody in that room. And then you have guys like Justin Zanuck, who have been, one of the brain trusts and one of the people who've helped build everything that the Jazz are going through right now, as far as getting through this rebuild and as far as getting in this position now where you're turning the corner, and you feel confident about this team potentially going into the future.
The way I look at it, I was surprised. There was a lot of backlash on social media. Everybody was like, "What? How could they not have a consensus at number 2 yet?" Right. Well, you're picking between 3 truly great players. Right. Ben Anderson keeps saying he firmly believes Cam Boozer is in the conversation just as much as AJ DeBonsa or Darren Peterson is, right? It's not just a 2-horse race. Cam Boozer is in consideration for this thing, right? So you're picking between 3 really good players. You're not going to have a consensus on who's number 2 because there's not really a drop-off in any of these 3 guys. Each of these 3 players, talking about AJ, Darren, and Cam, brings something to the table that a front office or a scout covets, right? AJ DeBonsa's got your prototypical athleticism and size and length. Right. You look at Mikal Bridges and what he's doing for the Knicks, and that's AJ's floor. That's AJ's floor is Mikal Bridges, right? And then you look at Cam Boozer and all the things that he can do with his IQ and his knowledge, and he just wins basketball games, and he wins the analytics argument, and he has consistently been the best player out of these 3 when they match up, right? Then you got Darren Peterson, who's going to come in and be one of the best shooters in the NBA. Knockdown, spot-up shooting, shot creation, all of that stuff. Those 3 things are highly coveted by scouts and general managers. So you talk to anybody in the Jazz front office, depending on what their flavor is, then that's who their number 1 consensus is going to be. So-and-so is going to like AJ because of his size. So-and-so is going to like Darren because they covet shooters. And
again, going back to one of the comments that Ainge said, is they want to make sure that they're picking the right guy to have that 9 to 10 year investment.
Yeah.
So who's going to be able to bring you, who you believe is going to bring you, has the highest ceiling and can bring you the most success over the course of the next 9 to 10 years, not just somebody who can come in because he has ties to BYU.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's no disrespect to AJ DeBonsa, because I think he can come in and absolutely be that guy.
But to your point, this decision is so much more than that.
It's so much more than just, hey, this guy went to BYU, or this guy, is the son of a Jazz legend.
Right. But I think it's important to note, too, like, just because you didn't win the number 1 pick doesn't mean you're not getting the best player in this draft.
Absolutely.
I think I'm willing to say that
with this draft, you can say that.
Right. With this draft.
Right.
Last year's draft,
maybe not so much.
Dylan Harper was pretty freaking good. But 2 drafts ago with Wemby,
there you go. Yeah, that's one of them.
Not every draft is this top heavy. You know?
And then everybody says next year's draft is
bad.
Is not that great.
Right.
I don't want to say bad, because there's still a whole college basketball season that needs to be played out, and maybe somebody rises up, maybe somebody surprises everybody, and then ends up being the consensus number 1 or whatever. But it's not looking like this draft. This draft, I think, even 2 years ago, you looked at this specific year and said, this is the draft.
Right.
Because you knew it was coming out.
Yes. Cooper Flagg was supposed to be in this draft, and he reclassified because he was scared.
That's true.
I don't know if he was scared, but I'm going to assume he was scared.
I'm talking about reclassifying. I'm not saying that's true. I'm not saying that's true to the scared part. I'm saying that's true to the reclassifying part. That is true. He ended up going to last year's draft again, because you kind of knew what was coming with this draft.
Yes, people have seen this for a long time. So I think it's pretty safe to assume that Darren, Cam, and AJ are on an equal level as prospects, right? So if you're picking at number 2, it's not like you're getting the leftovers. It's not like you're getting the next best thing or the consolation prize. You are still taking your shot at a very good player with a very high ceiling and a very bright future.
How much of the history of the number 2 pick do you think is over scaring Jazz fans?
Yeah, so
because
what you're talking about
historically the number 2 pick has not been the greatest.
Right. Well, it makes sense that it hasn't been.
Right.
Because you think of the number 2 pick, and most of the time, we were just talking about how this draft class is special because there's 3 top prospects, not just one. Most of the time there is just one number 1 pick, number 1 prospect, and then the number 2 team has to kind of be like, okay, you freak out a little bit because you missed out on it. What can we do? We got to take our shot. But you look at the recent number 2 picks, and I think that should alleviate some of this stress and anxiety for Jazz fans. Number 2 pick last year, Dylan Harper, looking phenomenal.
And you saw what he did last night.
Right, in these NBA Finals. Right. He's playing great. Brandon Miller, another recent number 2 pick. He's been playing really good.
I really like Brandon Miller.
Alex Sarr, I know that we like to sit here and make fun of Washington. Alex Sarr has actually been playing really well. So that's, I think, the last 4 number 2 picks right there. And then, and Chet Holmgren. Right?
Yep,
and I know that Chet fell apart in the Western Conference Finals, but he earned himself a max contract extension before that. And don't let one playoff series solidify your perception of Chet Holmgren yet. As much as I like to sit here and make fun of him, the truth is he's a good player, and that was the right pick.
Did you know the Lakers had 3 back-to-back number 2s?
Who was it? Julius Randle, Brandon Ingram, and Lonzo Ball?
D'Angelo Russell.
Oh, D'Angelo Russell, yeah.
In 15, Brandon Ingram in 16, and then Lonzo Ball in 17.
Crazy.
So, I mean, yeah, I look at that, and I understand the hesitancy and I guess the reluctance and the scaredness of Jazz fans of saying, look, historically, the number 2 hasn't been that great. But to your point, and to more recent history, I mean, Dylan Harper and the guys that you just mentioned have been great. And this draft specifically, like, I think that you're getting the best available player, no matter if it's Darren Peterson, no matter if it's AJ DeBonsa, no matter if it's Cam Boozer. Guys who can come in and change the franchise for a really long time, not just Alonzo Ball, not a Brandon Ingram,
right.
not a D'Angelo Russell, and maybe not even a Jabari Parker.
The other thing to keep in mind, too, is that these guys' futures are not predetermined. Like, it's not predetermined who's going to come in and be a bust just because, right? These futures are not written yet. I mean, Victor Wembanyama could have let's say a bad organization won that number 1 pick.
Yeah.
He could have been a bust.
I don't think anybody ever looked at John Morant at number 2 and could have predicted and could have expected that things have happened the way it's happened for John Morant.
Well, and he was a very special player his first few years, right?
He absolutely was.
And what I'm saying is that it matters more who the team drafting is, not who the player is.
Right.
It's up to the Jazz to bring in whoever they take and develop them into that player, into what they want him to be. And some of these organizations are better at that than others. You look at partially why Dylan Harper is playing so well right now. Yes, he was a great prospect, but he goes to a great organization with a great history and a great staff. So it's no shock that he's going to be playing good. I think it's more of a surprise when you look at somebody like Brandon Miller, who went to a bad organization in Charlotte, but he's still playing well.
Right. And I think in this iteration of the Jazz front office and in this iteration of the people making the decisions, I don't think I don't think that I would consider any of those players a bad choice or a bad decision. I don't think I've yet to see them make a bad choice and a bad decision. So there's nothing in the past, too, that this front office has done to make me think, oh, they're going to make the wrong decision.
No, and it boils down to, do you trust Will Hardy and his staff to develop them?
Exactly. And I think that everybody in that room has that confidence in Will Hardy.
Yeah, because he has a great background. And I know it's tough because the Jazz have had 4 losing seasons in a row, 4 terrible seasons in a row. So it's hard to judge Will Hardy based off his win-loss record. But look at the development that Keontae George has had in his 3 years here. And look at the development that Walker Kessler has had.
Look at the steps Cody Williams has taken.
Right, even from year 1 to 2. Like, some of these things, man, there's little eggs that if you look at, Will Hardy's done some really great things with some of these players. And it sucks that we never got to see Taylor Hendricks really blossom.
Post-injury, yeah.
Because he was supposed to be a project, and that was supposed to be, kind of the sign of what Will Hardy could do as a developmental coach. And they ultimately include him in a trade that brings in a much better player, so that's fine. But even guys like Filipowski, early second-round pick or end of the first-round pick, playing a lot better than he should be. So I really like Will Hardy and what the Jazz staff is doing, and I trust because of them. That's why I say you can't go wrong with any of these 3 prospects, because I think they're going to get the most out of whoever they draft.
I could not agree more. Again, whether that be Darren, whether that be AJ, whether that be Cam Boozer. I think you're getting 3 really, really incredible players, regardless of who lands to you at number 2. And we'll see, right? There's still 2.5 weeks. We'll see if there's any information on whether or not the Wizards finally figure out what they want to do at number 1 and go from there.
Yeah. Oh, hit my mic. Let's take a break. Coming up next, we got 5 minutes of still a lot to talk about. A lot of things happened this week that we need to touch on, including Brendan Sorsby. And it looks like his future for the NCAA is cemented. There has been a decision. Stanley Cup playoffs, we'll touch on that and more. Stick with us. It's a Saturday show, 97.5 DKSL Sports Zone.
Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Just top.
Welcome back to the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Christian Esparza, Alex Napoles, taking you through the world of sports. Thank you for making us a part of your Saturday morning. It's time for 5 minutes of. We've still got a few stories left in the day. Don't have a ton of time to get through everything, so we'll go a little bit of rapid-fire approach here. Alex, the big one, Texas Tech's appeal to the NCAA to have Brendan Sorsby's eligibility reinstated has been denied. According to multiple reports.
Well, not that shocked.
Not that shocked at all.
I mean, the reality is, man, and I've been saying this for the last few weeks, like, you cannot let him play.
Yeah.
No matter what circumstance, no matter what appeal, he cannot be allowed to play college football ever again. And I say that because if he does, end up getting granted an injunction or whatever can happen in the courts that allows him to have some sort of eligibility to play this season, you are opening a very dangerous box. A really, really dangerous box. This guy betted on an Indiana team that he was on. He placed bets, he placed wagers on a team that he was a part of.
And part of the NCAA statement when this hearing was going down is they basically said, look, if we allowed him to come back and play, we would be the first American sports team to ever do that.
Right.
And you don't want to be that.
Let's not forget that you have an NBA coach who is being still investigated
by the FBI.
For this very reason. You still have an NBA player who is being investigated by the FBI for this very reason. Like, he cannot be allowed to play. Again, you are opening a very dangerous box if he does, because then you're just kind of opening the door for every college player to ever have betted to be like, yeah, you know what, I'm doing this, and there's nothing you can do about it.
I think there was some worry.
Talk about the integrity of the game. Like,
right. There were people worrying that because NIL and the NCAA has got so crazy over the last couple of years, there was some worry that they would just cave and let him back in. But I'm glad that they're standing by, their convictions and saying, you know what, we have these rules. This rule is black and white. It's one of the only rules left in college football. This one is a big no-no. Don't do it because there are consequences. So I'm glad that they are standing strong.
Absolutely. The question again now turns to what their next appeal is going to be. I think that I don't know if Texas Tech is at the point yet where they're ready to give up on banging on this drum. We'll see whatever appeal they decide to go through. We'll see whatever whatever they try to do next. But if this does ultimately does end up being the last straw, and ultimately does end up being the thing that says, hey, Sorsby cannot play this year in college football, whether or not he decides to go into the supplemental draft. The deadline for entering that supplemental draft for the NFL is coming up soon, and you already have head coaches in the NFL who have made their their voices known about whether or not they would take that gamble on Brendan Sorsby in the supplemental draft.
Not at all. I mean, it's not even come across my desk. I don't think we're in a position to want to go down that road. That's my opinion. That's not Andrew's. And that I like the quarterbacks that we have. I think that's a slippery slope when you go down that, irrespective of talent, right? In terms of the situation he's put himself in. And we all know what that is. He put himself in that situation. And we've seen in other sports with players that have been banned for life from playing in professional sports. I think that's a slippery slope to go down that road. Again, that's a question for Andrew and for management. But from my end of it, kind of a tough angle to go down that road and think that that's going to be your franchise quarterback if he's ever eligible to even play in the NFL.
Gotcha. Thank you.
This is the Cleveland Browns head coach, Todd Monken, who, somebody asked, because it's no surprise, it's no secret, I guess, that their quarterback situation isn't the greatest in the NFL. And so he was asked, of course, if somebody would take a gamble on Brendan Sorsby, and he's 1,000% right. Even if you take that gamble, and even if you...
Really?
No pun intended.
Really?
No pun intended. I didn't even think
soon,
about it.
Alex,
I didn't even think about it. Even if you take that opportunity to bring in, Brendan Sorsby, and even if you take that opportunity to bring in Brendan Sorsby, and what situation he carries and what he brings in, and he's right. I don't know if you could look at him and say this is going to be our franchise quarterback, knowing the situation he's in.
I mean, it's only a risk if you think he's going to do it again. Right?
That's true.
He allegedly went to treatment. You would think after all this public hubbub, he would stop. Realize that he's got a freaking problem and he needs to stop. And hopefully he did go to treatment. And I would imagine, honestly, that treatment is going to continue because addictive behaviors aren't just things that go away. You kind of have to just keep repressing those behaviors, right? So this is something Sorsby's going to have to deal with and work with. But the talent is there, and there's no denying that. You look at any mock draft for next year, for the 2027 draft, Sorsby is a top 10 pick. Allegedly. He was going to be a top 10 pick for next year's draft.
Yes.
So the talent is there. And, there's a reason why Texas Tech threw a bag at him. Because he's a really good player. He's a really good quarterback. And I honestly think there are several teams in the NFL, the Browns being one of them, that could benefit from having a player like Brendan Sorsby. So that's where the question becomes is, it's only a risk if you think he's going to make that mistake again, if he's going to continue with this behavior. And, the NFL has Slightly different gambling rules than the NCAA, but ultimately, yeah, you can't bet on your own team. Actually, I think the NFL is probably more strict. I don't think you can gamble at all.
Yes.
So yeah, just keep sticking with your Chinese horse racing or whatever it was that he was doing. I don't think the NFL would have a problem with that. Yeah, the pitch count.
Yeah.
The supplemental draft works in a very interesting way, by the way. For those that don't know, you don't have to enter the supplemental draft. If you do, you're put into one of three groups, basically how good you are, right? And so Sorsby, again, because he's a talented player, would probably be in the first group, in the group of teams in that first group, right? And that group of teams, they essentially bid on the picks by putting up for sale one of their next year's draft picks. So essentially, the Browns could say, okay, we forfeit our second round pick in 2027 to take Brendan Sorsby first overall in 2026 supplemental draft. That's essentially how it works. If there are a bunch of teams putting up their third round pick, then somebody's going to have to raise the price a little bit and offer a second round pick, and they lose that pick. So we'll see how it goes. But I think teams are going to be interested in him because you look at, first off, and this just came to mind too, who's Todd Monken to be talking about what his quarterbacks are doing off the field? Because you look at who his presumed starter is in Deshaun Watson right now.
Yeah.
We don't have to say a whole lot there, but come on. Really? So I think there are going to be a lot of NFL teams in on Brendan Sorsby just because the talent is there.
Reading a little bit further into this, so this is the ruling that happened last night is coming directly from the NCAA, of course. This was for their original appeal to give him eligibility. There was a hearing that happened on Monday in court, and this is completely separate from that lawsuit.
Oh, this one is separate. Okay.
This is completely separate from the lawsuit. So this isn't the end of the Brendan Sorsby saga. We're still going to, it's more news will continue to come out about this. More news will continue to happen because there's still the lawsuit pending against the NCAA as he tries to regain some eligibility. But this is just the initial appeal from Texas Tech directly to the NCAA about allowing Sorsby to be eligible and have eligibility reinstated. And that was ultimately what was denied last night. So the ruling on the lawsuit that was heard on Monday, there's still no final verdict, and nothing new that has come out from the lawsuit.
But to your point earlier, you said the deadline is when?
Oh, to join the supplemental.
I think
draft?
it was June 15th or June 22nd.
Yes.
It's the middle of June.
Yes.
Brendan Sorsby's camp has said several times that they want a decision
before that.
Right, before then, in the next week or two, so that way he can enter the supplemental draft if he is denied, which it looks like. I mean, I'd be shocked if that's...
Again, you can't. Whoever that judge is has to, put the foot down and completely slam the door on any possibility of him getting some sort of eligibility.
Moving on. Stanley Cup Finals. Series tied 1-1. Game 3 is tonight. 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. here. Vegas takes Game 1. Carolina takes Game 2. Overtime win for the Hurricanes.
Both really, really incredible games.
You think a lot of people are picking Vegas in this series. I'm sticking with Carolina, man. That's my pick.
I think Vegas has been a fun story. And, from Cassidy being let go late in the season, Tortorella taking over the team with eight regular season games left on the year, and then now this run that they're on, I think that's a great story. And if Tortorella can finish it up with a Stanley Cup, to all it would just make that story even better. I think it would be fun to see a Vegas Golden Knights win. Ultimately, though, I do think Carolina wins the Stanley Cup Finals.
You think so? You going Canes in 6 or what?
I do. I'd like to see
in 5.
I'd like to see 7.
Canes in 7.
I'd like to see 7. Going back to Game 1 the other night, it was. I think you've learned up to this point of the Stanley Cup playoffs that no lead is safe against this Vegas team.
As Utah learned.
As everybody's has learned. You're up 2-0. They come back and make it 3-2. They tied up at 3-3. Vegas takes their lead. Then Carolina ties it up, and then late Thomas Hertel scores the winner for the Vegas Golden Knights. And then it was kind of nice to see in Game 2 the Hurricanes kind of go back and give them a little bit of a taste of their own medicine. Because in that one, the Golden Knights are up 2-0, and then the Hurricanes storm back with 3 straight to make it 3-2. Mark Stone scores late to tie it up at 3-3, and then a pretty quick overtime with Seth Jarvis scoring the power play winner.
It's interesting to me how overtime seems to use momentum in the NHL. How often do you see, for example here, the Knights led most of the game yesterday. They entered the third period with a 2-0 lead, right? They were winning for a majority of the game, and then Carolina had to tie it up late and then send it to OT. And Vegas ends up losing. How many times do you see that in the NHL where it's like the team is winning a majority of the game, they're ahead, the other team ties it up and forces OT, and it's the other team that ends up winning?
Well, I'll answer your question with another question. How many times did Utah see that?
And maybe that's why my opinion is pointed that way, because it seems to happen to Utah all the time.
How many times did the Mammoth see that, specifically in the series against the Vegas Golden Knights?
Right, and it's like any time when the Mammoth they had a lead late and then it gets tied up and it's like, please don't go to overtime. And then it goes to overtime. It's like, and it's a loss already.
Right.
So it is interesting how that works. The team loses their momentum going into that extra period, and it's just game over from then on.
Again, so far I think the Stanley Cup Finals have lived up to the billing. Both games, I've had a lot of fun watching both games. Super stoked, super excited to see Game 3 tonight. Still no update on whether or not McNabb will be ready to go.
Puck to the chin, bro.
Ugh.
That's gonna hurt.
The slow motion video of the front view of it, where you can just see him bracing for impact.
He sees it coming
as an 87-mile-per-hour puck is heading straight to your face.
Frozen piece of rubber.
Tough, man. That's tough.
Were there any pictures of his face afterwards?
Not that I've seen. Obviously, we're glad he's okay, right? We're glad that it does sound like he ended up going to the hospital a little bit after the game. Super scary scene in Game 2 when it happened. But so far, Tortorella and the Vegas Golden Knights team haven't said whether or not McNabb will be good, ready to go.
Remains unclear.
Yeah.
You might want to sit this one out. I don't know.
Yeah, make sure you're okay,
Let's take another break, Alex. Coming up on the other side, we will wrap this show up. Stick with us. It's the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome back to the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Christian Esparza, Alex Napoles. It's so funny over there.
You know that trend on TikTok? The saxophones are getting louder?
No.
Oh, man.
I haven't seen that one.
Reminded me.
That's why you're laughing?
Yeah, the song reminded me of that.
Wrapping up another Saturday show. It's been a good one. A lot of stuff going on this week. NBA Finals are great. The draft is getting closer by the day, so it's always fun. This time of the year can drag on, but at the same time, you get guys like Austin Ainge on the station, and you get some good information.
Absolutely. Always great to hear. We mentioned it earlier. Always great to hear from the people who make those decisions and people who are breaking down the prospects and studying these guys. Right, they go all the way back to high school. They go all the way back to wherever to see the videos, to see the film, to study it, to learn these people, learn these players, so that ultimately come draft night they can make the right decision for the franchise, for their roster, for their team. And again, we talked about it. There's nothing that these guys have done that doesn't give me confidence that ultimately they'll come to the right decision, even if that means that right now there is not a consensus on who they want to or which direction they want to go.
Yeah, why would you? The draft is still 2.5 weeks away.
Yeah, still plenty of time to break things down and to make that decision.
Another minor story came out this week. Lance Holtzclaw was up on the Hill testifying at Congress for the Protect College Sports hearing that Congress had. Of course, that bill Maria Cantwell and Ted Cruz introduced. They're trying to pass it, and essentially, long story short, they want to put some guardrails on college sports and the way everything has gotten out of hand with NIL and spending and things like that. So there was a panel essentially of all these people. Nick Saban, of course, the headline. Pete Bavacqua, the athletic director of Notre Dame. Some really big names. And then Lance Holtzclaw was there representing student athletes. So I thought that was really cool. And he got up in front of Congress and talked about his experiences as a student athlete. And what I liked that he didn't really take a stance on either side. He just kind of got up and talked about what he's gone through. Of course, starting at Washington and being a part of a team that won a lot of games. And then what brought him to Utah and going through the COVID year and all of those things. And talking about agents and what agents can do to these student athletes if they're not careful. So
right.
It was cool to have some local representation, kind of having a big platform.
Exactly, and that's I think the perfect way to look at this, because I think, the conversation surrounding college sports and the conversation surrounding the quote unquote fixed college sports. One of the things that I think has been missing throughout all these, the SCORE Act and now this new one. One of the things that I think have been missing have been the student athlete perspective.
Right.
And I think people have gone away from that. Gone away a little bit from the most important things when it comes to college sports is these student athletes, right? And you want to have protections for them, and you want to be able to have somebody there to make sure that they share their perspective on things and make sure that they're also giving their thoughts and I think it's great for Lance Holtzclaw to be up there, not only for the Utah brand, but again just to have that Utah or that student athlete perspective that I think has been missing a lot from these conversations.
Yeah, and it's not like he's Arch Manning, He is he's a very good defensive end. He might be one of the best defensive ends in the Big 12 conference next year. He's slated to have a really big season for the Utes, but he's not David Bailey.
Yeah, he's not your superstar household name.
No.
Right?
Nobody outside of Utah or maybe Washington, I guess, knows Lance Holtzclaw, and that's fine.
Right. He's a, for lack of better terms, middle of the pack guy. I think that's the best way.
That's the point.
I think that's the best way to kind of approach this is to have somebody who maybe necessarily again isn't on the superstar level, isn't making the millions of NIL. It's just somebody who's there to be the student athlete, to be for the love of the game.
Yeah, so it was cool to hear some of the things that he had to say, and we'll see where all that stuff goes, man. It gets pretty hairy when you talk about Congress stepping in, and of course it's so hard for them to pass anything anyways. So something as controversial as things that are going to mess with college sports and college football, I don't know if there's ever going to be anything that Congress can do to step in. But we'll see. We will see. As far as the rest of the schedule today on the Zone, Salt Lake Bees holding it down, taking on the Albuquerque Isotopes, a home series. First pitch tonight, 6:35, 6:20 pregame as always. Tony Parks is going to be on the call, and then the last game of this series, that's going to be tomorrow night, 6:05 p.m., 5:50 pregame for the Bees.
A little bit of a slower period, man, here on the station.
Yeah, RSL on break. They did agree to a friendly, right, during the World Cup break. But, yeah, with RSL out and no Royals either, it's just Bees, man.
Yep, everything's...
The Bees get the spotlight.
Everything's coming to a stop right now as we get ready for the World Cup, man. It starts up this week.
You excited?
Oh, yeah. The World Cup bug has finally bit me.
Team USA going to make a deep run or no?
I think they'll make it out of the group.
Out of the group, into the playoffs.
They make it out of the group. They'll make it into the knockout stages. Depending on how things line up and how all the other groups go, you might get a pretty... Because of the expanded tournament, the competition in the group is a little bit watered down. So you might get a really good matchup for the round of 32 and make it into the round of 16. But I don't know if you make it very further past the round of 16 because that's when, you're taking on the heavy European dogs.
For those that care, they do have a friendly today against Germany coming up in about a half hour. And then their first official game in the group stage is Friday, taking on Paraguay.
Germany, one of the teams that are one of the teams that are expected to make a deep run and possibly go and win this thing. So this is a massive test for the U.S. men's national team to see kind of where they stack up, or compared to somebody who can potentially go on and win this whole thing. So.
All right, we'll talk to you next week. Maybe the NBA Finals will be wrapped up by then. Who knows? Maybe we'll have some more clarity on who the Jazz are leaning towards. Who knows? But whatever happens, we'll be there for you next Saturday. Thanks for listening. And thanks to Parker producing, as always, behind the scenes. Some good drops today, some great music, as always. So talk to you next week. It's the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.